Good afternoon on what is a bright, clear but chilly day. It is Wednesday the 15th of December and I'm back in the Read Nook with some parcels and interesting things to unbox. I am accompanied by a cat who is not ours, who is being very quiet because he's got a lap, and of course I have a nice hot cup of tea. And what I'm going to unbox next has come out of this box, which is a big box of things that my friend Keith has sent me across from the States. Basic collection of things that I have sort of like purchased over there and didn't want to handle shipping bit by bit. And he basically looked after them for a while and then sent them via pirate ship, which was very quick. Actually quicker to get across the States, basically get across from here, basically from the States to here, than it was to actually get across the UK. But I was hugely disappointed when this parcel didn't arrive in a delivery van that was done up as a pirate truck, and the delivery driver didn't come out and go with a big chest and go, "Arr, here's your treasure." Nevertheless, there's a whole stack of interesting things in here which I've been looking forward to get hold of, including this. Now, this is a copy of Apple Lane, containing Gringotts Pawn Shop and Rainbow Mounds, two beginning scenarios by Greg Stafford for RuneQuest. What's interesting about this is the fact that it's the white cover, when a lot of players will only have ever seen the yellow cover, especially here in the UK, where it was packaged in with the Games Workshop box set in about 1983, I believe. The thing is, okay, so this doesn't even have a card cover. And there are maps of the area on the back. So we have a map of Sartar, marking out, very early map of Sartar, marking out where Apple Lane is. It has been mapped out in far more detail and far better more recently for RuneQuest role-playing and Durant, for the latest iteration of the role-playing game. Matt Ryan has done some absolutely fantastic maps for the region, and then we've got an area map a bit closer, more detail there. So, not a card cover, just a booklet. And so this is 1978-1980, so not first edition, okay, but it's as close as you're possibly going to get at the moment. And we basically open it up and we've got stats. So, what's interesting about Apple Lane is, really for many players of RuneQuest, it was their starting point. It would have been the first scenarios that they played in for RuneQuest, in whatever iteration, because essentially it took the characters from the point when they started playing. Because originally, you started off at 16, you were recent initiates of a cult, but you didn't really have much in the way of cult magic or skills. And what you would actually do is you would actually go through an initiation setup, is where you all have to fight each other to see how you take a wound and get used to combat, and basically then proceed into becoming an adult. I mean, that's the premise of the first scenario of the tribal initiation. And really, in terms of gameplay, I mean, it's a skill test. This is a skill test for the players. Get some idea of how the combat, how mechanics work, how the combat system works. Have them a chance to lose a limb, or typically a leg, left leg, traditionally, and get them involved. So next we have a map of Apple Lane, and you can see how very simple this is. Very simple layout. Before we get on to Welcome to Apple Lane, and if you want a more update, this has been updated twice. In sort of three times in terms of over its history, because essentially you've got a version from Avalon Hill, which is for RuneQuest 3. You have a version, Return to Apple Lane, which really is written for Hero Quest, Hero Wars, and it updates the setting from sort of like the period of the years, sort of like, say for example, the year ST 1616, to a bit further on, during lunar occupation, and then more fully updated in the adventures booklet in the GM's pack for RuneQuest role-playing Garantha, which is the most recent iteration, and gets you far more involved in events in Glorantha, and in and around Apple Lane, and it's actually forming the basis of my own mini campaign. So we've got the basic descriptions of the various locations. So whether that's the sheriff's house, John and Sword Sharp, who unfortunately by the time of defending Apple Lane it's been killed or passed away. Various members of Apple Lane, many of them who might have moved on or died as a result of history by the time we get to role-playing in Garantha. But full stats and so on. We've got a Temple to all the Deities, Horsemasters Guild, and a bit of description of the surrounding area before we get on to the first adventure, which is Gringle's Pawn Shop. Now, the thing is, if you think about it, your first adventure when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons is go somewhere on the far frontier, okay, cross over the frontier, go into the wilderness, and go down a hole and fight things. Okay, go down a dungeon. So whether that's B1 in search of the unknown or B2 keep on the borderlands, essentially both do that, and that's the setup. That's a classic Dungeons and Dragons style setup. In Apple Lane and Gringle's Pawn Shop, you're in a village, and you have to defend a shop, and the fight comes to you. And essentially, what you're doing there really is kind of essentially a castle defense or tower defense. It's a situation where you have to defend against, as recent initiates, against an attack by baboons overnight. And when I ran it, I decided that I would do it as a flashback, because essentially I'm running it in, my campaign is in 1625. This is in 16. This is in 16. Set my Gringle's Pawn Shop in 1621. And basically I had the players play it, but without their rune magic. Basically because they were recent initiates and they were still learning, and it made things all the more difficult and challenging. But it showed them how, essentially, how the combat system really worked, how they really needed to work together. It didn't always work together, and how the system played out. And one big battle. I've run it twice like that. It kind of works. So we have a map of Gringle's Pawn Shop. Essentially, it's a place, where Gringle and his duck assistant work and live. And what essentially what the player characters have to do is they have to hide a MacGuffin and prevent the baboons from grabbing it. And then we've got the descriptions of each of the attackers and the attack itself. And I won't go into any more detail on it, but it's not as simple as it sounds. But it is ultimately a series of one big combat, and it's great for staging. It's a great sort of like it's also good for setting up a sort of like a miniatures combat thing, because it's one-on-one combat. And that's when I first did it like that. When I first did it, oh god, back in the 80s, I drew it on a sheet of A2 paper, basically a sheet of draftsman paper, and I drew it all out with squares marked and that sort of thing, and ran it as a big battle game. And then when it came to running it for RuneQuest role-playing Garantha, I had somebody got hold of the plans from the second edition version of this from Avalon Hill Games, and photocopied the maps and blew them up. and then printed those out. Basically able to put it down on the table and use that and have miniatures coming in and fighting, and combining that with this strike rank track, and it all gave it a great physicality. So that really works. So yeah, it's a really sort of like, it's a good introduction to the setting and system. It makes it the society and the village important to the player characters. They're going to get paid. They're working for someone. They're making a name for themselves. And then they have a second chance to do that with the Rainbow Mounds, which is the nearest sort of equivalent you get to a dungeon in RuneQuest. And we have sort of a troll-infested cavern. Well, I say a troll and trollkin-infested cavern. And basically, there have been troll raids recently, and the player characters are kind of hard to go in and deal with them. And it's sort of like a classic fantasy setup. But essentially, rather than an actual dungeon, what we've got is a series of caves and a series of mysteries. And the other fantastic about things is that these caves, they have a very much, it's a set of caves. Okay, just wander around, kill things. But there's natural hazards in there, and also the cave gets essentially the passages get narrow and jagged, and there's a cave in there which gets lower, and the ceiling gets lower and lower and lower. And as the players, if they see something glinting in there and they're supposed to go and explore, and they get attacked by rats, and it's just sort of like there's nothing the player can really do. It's basically thrash out against these rat swarms. But there's a lot more going on in this scenario than you necessarily think, and there's a lot more, and there are other factions in here. And the thing is, it's where this scenario is such a signature kind of scenario for the game, is it's actually been updated for the starter set. But not only just updated, not just reskinned, done remechanics, but told sort of like 5-10 years on. So what you can do, which I'm planning to do, so I'm going to take this, I know my players haven't played it, but it's one of the things they're going to do possibly soon in 2 or 3 adventures, is they're going to do this as a flashback. Okay, because I've done Grimwell's Pawn Shop as a flashback, but next I'm going to do this as a flashback. And after I've done that, a few more adventures, then they're going to go into the new version of Rainbow Mounds and go, we remember this, we've been here before. And that gives it, basically you've got a bit of, oh yeah, I remember this, but I remember what this is like. And it's sort of like, is it going to be the same? Are you running the same thing again? Well, of course I'm not. Almost. Because there are lots of sort of like links between the 2 versions. But anyway, this isn't perfect, but it has been written on, which I didn't know about because I couldn't see inside. Yeah, this is a version of the scenario I've not seen before. It's not, apart from the cover, it's not really illustrated. Later versions would be. Interesting thing about the whole of this is there's quite a lot of background in here. You've got a discussion of a whole new race that isn't in the core rules. They're not in the core rules now, but they are in. They do appear in the best 3. And we have essentially, the deal. So basically, you've got opportunities for role playing in there too. Then we've got essentially a discussion of the bad guy, the big bad, essentially, which is a dark troll. He's going to be a dark troll. Who leads the troll pit? Yeah, male dark troll. And of course, we've got the stats and everything there. All the way down to, okay, we've got a note on neutering nets and some expansion notes in there. So, what's fantastic about this is that it's still immensely playable. It's not perfect by any means, because essentially it was written for over 40 years ago, and times have changed, whether that's attitudes towards certain types of character. Some of the female characters are perhaps a little underpowered in comparison to what they should be, and the great thing about that is that in defending in the GM Adventures book, that's been updated, and that's which is which is great news. But anyway, if you can find a copy of Apple Lane, it's absolutely worth it if you're into RuneQuest. To really look at a scenario that is 40 years old but still very playable, lots of background, lots of fun, and your players will still enjoy it, and they can still play this. You know, they, you know, even with characters they got, even with the characters they have today, you know, they can still play this because I run it, and I've done all the stats up. I've given them new spells and like assigned, you know, their passions and so on. So yeah, that's Apple Lane. 2 beginning scenarios for RuneQuest, basically in the original version. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you posting those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me out here with the cat who is not ours on my lap, and a nice hot cup of tea, ready to take a package and unbox it to reveal a book or game, which I will talk about to the best extent of my knowledge for 10 minutes or so, then please do hit that subscribe button. Once again, thanks for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.